Welcome everyone to the North Middlesex Council meeting. It's May the 5th. It is 6 o'clock, so we will call this meeting to order. Roll call, everyone is present. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest, please email it to clerk, to Jackie. At this time, minutes of the previous meeting from April 21st, 2021. Any questions or business arising on the minutes? Seeing none, we need a mover for the minutes. Moved by Councillor McClinchy, seconded by Councillor Nicol. All in favor? At this time, we do have a public meeting, but we do have to take a short break before we start with that. it looks like we're ready to go. Our first item is in planning is a notice of public meeting zoning bylaw amendment for 2557 McGuffin Hills Drive. Delphine and Jack Shenning. So we have, I believe we have them online, correct? We have them here. There's Jack and Delphine. All right, so Stephanie, if you'd like to start, go ahead.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, that's okay.
Could I please have permission to share my screen? Thank you. All right, so the purpose of the application is to rezone the retained lot of consent B01 2021 from the general agricultural A1 zone to agricultural small holding exception AG1-31 zone. And that's to recognize the residential use of the lands and to limit the range of permitted uses, as well as to recognize the height of the existing accessory structure of 6.4 meters or 20.9 feet, whereas 5.5 meters or 18 feet is the maximum height permitted. And the application also seeks to rezone the severed lands of consent BL1 2021 from the general agricultural A1 zone to the general agricultural exception A1-87 zone, and that's to prohibit the establishment of new dwellings on the remnant agricultural parcel of land and to recognize the deficient lot area of 10.37 hectares or 25.63 acres, whereas 39 hectares or 100 acres is the minimum permitted. Staff are satisfied that the application of the agricultural small holding exception zone is considered to be appropriate for the proposed residential use of the lands, and as such, staff support the proposed zone change. And staff are also satisfied that the application of the general agricultural exception zone to prohibit the establishment of new dwellings and to recognize the deficient lot area is also considered to be appropriate for the remnant farm parcel, and as such, staff support this proposed zone change. Notice of the application was circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff did receive the following comments. So the North Middlesex Chief Building Official has no objections to the proposal. The Osabo Bayfield Conservation Authority has stated that the property does not fall in within their regulated area, and as such, they did not have a concern with the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. And at the time of writing the subject report, no comments were received from the public. So it is recommended that the application be approved. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. At this time, would the applicant have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. All right. So do we have any public? There's no one here from the public on this. Council, questions from council? Deputy Mayor Ellison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Stephanie, I have a question for you. On the remaining remnant land where where the recommendation is that there be no dwellings erected on that property, is it possible that not just in this particular situation, but in other situations throughout the municipality, that there could be a temporary use granny suite put on one of these properties? Or is that just carte blanche, no structures whatsoever at any time?
I'm fighting the sun a little bit, my apologies, but through the mayor to the councillor, it's no residential dwellings, so no granny flats or any residential forms on the remnant agricultural lands.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a recommendation in front of us. Moved by Councillor Moyer, seconded by Councillor Hemming. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Jackie, did you want to add to that on the appeal?
Absolutely. So then there is a 20-day appeal period that will apply, and I will be sending your notice of decision out in the next couple days that will outline that appeal period.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Delphine.
Thank you.
Okay,
You're welcome.
thanks.
Okay, at this time, I need a motion to go into committee of adjustment. Counselor Nickel, Counselor Keel, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. So our first item of business on that is the adoption of the minutes from April 7th. Any questions or business? Are you moving that, Counselor Moyer? Moved by Counselor Moyer, seconded. Counselor Hemming, all in favor? Carried. Our next item is actually deferred, and that is for the minor variance for 1079 Elm Tree Drive, and that is deferred at this time.
At the request of the applicant.
Okay, thank you. At 6:10, we do have a public meeting for consent to sever land at 26101 McCubbin Road. And the owners are Manuel and Maria Medeiros. I hope I said that right.
Correct.
And Chris, yes. Is Chris with us here now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Stephanie, would you like to begin?
Thank you. Great. So the purpose and effect of the application is to sever a parcel of land with frontage of approximately 150 meters or 492 feet along Wardell Drive and an area of approximately 7.7 hectares or 19 acres for residential building and environmental conservation purposes from an existing agricultural parcel with a frontage of approximately 404 meters along Wardell Drive in an area of approximately 36 hectares or 90 acres. The lands proposed to be severed contains an old single detached dwelling foundation, a well, and are otherwise vacant of any buildings or structures. The lands do not contain a sanitary service and do not appear to have existing access off Wardell Drive. The lands to be severed contained hazard lands as per Schedule A of the North Middlesex Official Plan and are regulated by the Ausable Bayfield Conservation Authority. The lands proposed to be retained would have a frontage of 254 meters along Wardell Drive and be approximately 28.3 hectares or 71 acres in size. The lands proposed to be retained contains a travel trailer and a barn, both to be removed as indicated by the applicant, and agricultural lands and crop production. The lands are serviced by private services and have an existing access off of McCubbin Drive. The provincial policy statement, the county official plan, and the North Middlesex official plan provides policy direction in regards to the creation of residential building lots in agriculturally designated areas. More specifically, the policy documents state that the creation of new residential lots in prime agricultural areas shall not be permitted, with the exception of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation. The policies are designated to protect agriculture from the intrusion of incompatible uses, such as non-farm related residential dwellings that are more sensitive to contemporary agricultural practices. The County of Middlesex official plan, the North Middlesex official plan, and the North Middlesex zoning bylaw recognize conservation uses as the applicant has proposed in the agricultural area, and there are no policies to support the severance of an agriculturally designated and zoned land for conservation purposes, as conservation and forestry are considered to be permitted in the agricultural area. The provincial policy statement, county official plan, and the North Middlesex official plan also provide policy direction to allow the creation of farm parcels, provided that the lots are a size appropriate for the type of agriculture common in the area and sufficiently large to maintain flexibility for future changes in the type or size of agriculture. Specifically, new farm parcels shall generally be around 40 hectares or 100 acres, as noted in both official plans. The subject property is zoned general agricultural A1 within the local zoning bylaw. And the A1 zone permits a range of agricultural and related uses, including conservation. And the A1 zone generally requires a minimum lot area of 30 hectares or 100 acres with a minimum lot frontage of 150 meters. Given that the proposed severed agricultural lot of 7.7 hectares or 28.3 acres is intended for residential building / conservation purposes and would result in the creation of an undersized agricultural parcel of land, the application is not considered to be consistent with the provincial policy statement and is not in conformity with the county and North Middlesex official plans or the North Middlesex zoning bylaw, as it does not meet the intent of the agricultural zone. It is also noted that if the existing travel trailer was to be removed as per the applicant's proposal, there would not be any policies preventing the intended forestry / conservation project and the construction of a new dwelling on the parcel as it exists today without the need for a severance. The applicant would, however, have to continue to work with the Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority in regards to any permits or environmental studies that may be required in regards to development in close proximity to the hazard lands. Notice of the application has been circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff did receive the following comments. The North Middlesex Chief Building Official has noted that most of the lands to be severed are not developable due to floodplain, so it would not make sense to include these lands. And approval of the severance would be contrary to severance policies as it's creating a residential lot in the country. And the North Middlesex Public Works Department provided the following comments. It was noted that municipal water is located along McGubbin. However, the current travel trailer is not currently connected at this time. And if the retained lands require water connection, they would be subject to all applicable dues and levies at the time of application for the water connection. It is also noted that the access to the proposed severed lot is through the municipal road of Wardell Drive. The proposed retained lands have no specified separate access. And that each of the severed and retained lands would need to establish a separate access. In terms of drainage, the retained and severed lands are assessed to the Cowie drain, and an assessment, drainage reassessment would be required as part of this application. The Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority recommended that the requested severance serves to maintain the identified hazard area within the parcel to be severed. Should this application be approved, all new development is expected to be outside the regulation limit and not encroach into the hazardous area. And at the time of writing the report, no public comments were received. So it is recommended that the application be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Chris, would you have some comments you'd like to add?
Well, this is my first time dealing with this situation. I wanted to kind of see how the process went and what was to be expected. Stephanie was very forthcoming when I first approached her about a year ago, explaining all the regulations, and she did say that it was going to be denied. It doesn't fall under the criteria, and I fully understood that. I was just trying to do my part to see what I could do with those hazard lands, as it isn't workable for farms. So I tried to see if I could do something to maybe utilize that property and kind of keep it in the family as we could moving forward. So I was trying to see if there was something I could do that would work with a township to try to do something with that land instead of it just kind of going to waste, because small farmers are pretty much gone now. A lot of the farms are a lot bigger and they kind of don't really deal with those smaller little sections that we have. So I thought I could do something that would utilize that property a little better, and that's why I wanted to do the environmental aspect of it. improve those waterways. That's why I was working with the Asable Bayfield Conservation Authorities, try to see what I could do to try to make that a little more environmental and bring that land to what I'd like to see it become. So I fully understand the denial of the severance. I was trying to see what I could do to move forward to maybe if there was something I could do to kind of utilize that property. Unfortunately, I would never be able to purchase that whole property from my parents, for my brothers and sisters. So I was trying to see if there was something I could do. Unfortunately, I don't see there's anything that I can do, but at least I got to be part of the process and see how this works and see what it was all about. And I thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your help. And Stephanie, thank you very much for explaining the guidelines as I went through this whole thing. And it was an excellent journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Do we have any public on board? No public. So questions from the committee. We have questions from the committee? No questions. A question I would have for Stephanie, when he's talking about doing something with that property, that would be with the Asable Bayfield primarily, correct? I mean, doing any changing on that protected area.
To the mayor, there's nothing to prevent the enhancement or the projects that Chris had mentioned, the applicant, in terms of the wetlands or improving and conserving the environmental features, as it is a listed permitted use within the current zoning. So, and yes, I believe the applicant would continue, if he so wished, to work with the Asable Bayfield from that side of things.
Thank you, Stephanie. Deputy Mayor Cornelison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Stephanie, had the application been one that was more consistent with those we have approved in the past, say like 1 hectare in size as opposed to the 7, would that have made a difference in this application process?
Through the mayor to the councillor, no, unfortunately, there's from the provincial level to our local official plan, there is specific policy direction to prohibit the creation of residential lots in our agricultural areas.
Okay, thank you.
If you remember, Adrian, when we first did the surplus farm severance, that was the only thing we could do at that time, and I don't think that's changed.
Well, no, I was just wondering because there's a trailer or another old building and foundation there. That's why I asked. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Councillor Hemming.
Yeah, to Stephanie again, like this is not the first or last time we're going to see smaller parcels being severed off. And I understand the policies that are in place already. Is there going to be, do they review those policies on a regular basis? Because what I'm seeing here is like the municipalities need to have a little more say and control over, a certain lots. I think there's one coming up here later next, I think, that, there has to be changes made so the municipality can control some of the destiny to help get the new people in the municipality to help with the tax situation. So I didn't know if there's any changes coming or how it goes about to allow that.
Through the mayor to the councillor, the county is currently working on an official plan update, which includes agricultural policy review and economic development policy alignment over the next few months. But having said that, again, the creation of residential lots within the agricultural area is prohibited by the provincial policies.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? No questions. We have a recommendation to deny the application. What's your wish?
Move it.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Cornelison. Seconded by Councillor Moyer. In favor of the recommendation? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Stephanie. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Okay, it is 6:20, and so our next item is a public meeting for consent to sever land, 2561 Glasgow Street, and the owners are Pigs R Us, and it's Steve and Jane Wilmsey. Steve's there, I believe.
Yeah.
So we can start. Okay, great, Steve. Stephanie, go ahead.
Thank you. All right, so the purpose and effect of the application is to sever a parcel of land with a frontage of approximately 140 meters or 459 feet along Glasgow Street and an area of approximately 1 hectare or 2.5 acres for residential building purposes from an existing agricultural parcel with a frontage of approximately 485 meters along Glasgow Street and an area of approximately 28 hectares or 70 acres. The lands to be severed are currently vacant of any buildings and structures, are unserviced, and do not appear to have an existing access off Glasgow Street. The lands proposed to be retained contain a single detached dwelling, a barn, and agricultural lands and crop production. The lands are serviced by municipal water in a private septic system and have existing access off of Glasgow Street. The provincial policy statement, the County of Middlesex official plan, and the North Middlesex official plan provides policy direction in regards to the creation of residential building lots in agriculturally designated areas. More specifically, the policy documents state that the creation of a new residential lot in prime agricultural areas shall not be permitted with the exception of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation. And the policies are designed to protect agriculture from the intrusion of incompatible uses, such as non-farm related residential dwellings that are sensitive to agricultural practices. Given that the proposed severed agricultural lot of 1 hectare or 2.5 acres is intended for residential building purposes, the application is not considered to be consistent with the provincial policy statement and is not in conformity with the county and North Middlesex official plans or the North Middlesex zoning bylaw, as it does not meet the intent of an agricultural zone. Staff are therefore not in a position to support the proposed consent application. Notice of the application was circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. The North Middlesex Chief Building Official has noted that the approval of this permit would be contrary to severance policies of creating undersized lots in the country. Additionally, it has come to staff's attention in reviewing this planning application that the retained parcel is advertising wedding venues. And it is noted to please have the applicant contact staff to discuss the current zoning of the property and permitted uses in that zone. Also, that the applicant should be aware that any buildings on the subject property must be evaluated and approved to include a use that is not agricultural. The North Middlesex Public Works Department provided the following comments. 2561 Glasgow Street is currently connected to municipal drinking water system. Any additional connection for the severed portion of the lands would be subject to all applicable dues and levies at the time of the application for water connection. The retained lands currently have access off of Glasgow Street, and a new access would be required, including a road allowance work permit, application fee, and a deposit will be required to establish a new entrance at the expense of the owner. And the retained and severed lands are assessed to the Harvey word drain, and due to the severance, the assessment schedule is required to be reassessed under the Drainage Act as part of the process. And the Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority provided the following recommendation that the requested severance serves to maintain the majority of the identified hazard area within the parcel to be retained. Should this application be approved, all new development is expected to be outside the regulation limit and not encroach into a hazardous area or significant natural heritage features. At the time of writing the subject report, no public comments were received. However, subsequent to writing the report, staff did receive a written letter of objection from due to concerns of trespassing, privacy, and concerns about the enjoyment of their own personal property from an abutting property owner. And so it is recommended that the application be denied. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Steve, I believe it's you that's on this line. Do you have any comments you'd like to add, Steve?
Just maybe if I enjoy this process and I hope that it carries out through. If you actually look at the property, if you call the 2.5 acres agricultural land, it actually, the size of the equipment we use today, it doesn't make any sense for me to actually farm that land. And I can't access that land from the rest of the property because of a deep gully and trees. And if there's any consideration for, if you could look at it physically, go and look at it, you would see how it makes sense to actually severance that and add another person in the municipality. When I started this process, I actually applied and took my application back because of the cost of farming has gotten up. And now with the water going up, I had to find another source of income. And that 2.5 acres actually doesn't make me any money at all to farm. So when I took the application back, I had a person actually confront me and ask me if they could build a house there. And I said, that's kind of funny because I had an application in and I took it back and I had counselors come out and look, and their advice was, it makes sense to me to put the application in and see where it goes from there, because they actually took a look, and that should be part of the process, even though it doesn't fit the 100-acre size of the farm. If you actually look at it physically, it is a perfect spot. It's not affecting any of the other farms or other properties. And that's what I want you guys to do, is actually go through the process and take a look. That's all I can ask.
Thank you, Steve. Do we have no public to make comment on this? So at this time, committee, questions from the committee. Councillor Keogh?
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Actually, I just have a comment that I'd like to make, that I certainly can sympathize with Steve Wilmsey on this. These small parcels, which are deemed significant natural heritage features, what they become is just a natural haven, of course, for deer and wild turkeys and other wildlife that all it seems to be doing is just exhausting the wildlife damage benefit that some of us, can receive. However, we're just exhausting that, and it just comes to a point that it's such a small percentage that it's hardly worth filling out the paperwork and going through the hassle. That certainly a small parcel of land like this, I think, I understand that the guidelines are set down by the county and by the province as well, and I hope that someday in the future that some of this may be overhauled, because there are some certainly nice properties such as this that would easily support a $700,000 or $800,000 house with that would be beneficial to the municipality with development charges, water usage and whatnot. So I guess I'd just like to make a comment. I'm sympathizing with Steve Wilmsey on this, that it certainly is a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I don't think any of us disagree with that. There are some places that they can't farm it. The policies do hinder us right now on those things. Councillor Hemming.
Yeah, to reiterate what John was saying, and Steve to a point too, about it is a case where you can grasp it easier if you do go out and see it, other than just having words on paper. That's why I was getting to you, Stephanie, about and I know it's not your fault, but the policies and that there have to be allowances made somewhere, and different variations of the policy, so we can, the municipality can look at that chunk of land and say, yeah, that makes 95% more sense than trying to farm it. So, and the municipality, it'd be a win-win for the municipality to have a family and somebody there. So that's just my comment. So I think things have to change.
Thanks, Andy. Deputy Mayor Cornelison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Stephanie, you mentioned in the previous application that the county is currently undergoing a policy or land use policy review. Is the Federation of Agriculture involved in that process?
Through the mayor to the councillor, I would have to follow up with you in regards to who has been at the table in regards to that process. But
I appreciate
consultation is, yeah.
Me,
Thank you, Stephanie.
downstairs, I'll come in.
Other questions?
Thanks.
Other questions from the committee? No other questions from the committee. At this time, the recommendation is to deny this application. What is your wish? Moved by Councillor Nickel. Seconder. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Cornelison. Discussion on it? All in favor? Opposed? 2 opposed. Thank you. The recommendation does carry to deny. Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Stephanie. I think we need a motion right now to go out of committee adjustment to go to regular meeting. Councillor Keogh, Councillor McClinchy, all in favor? Carried. So we have a annual planning summary report, and I'm not sure who's going to take the lead on it. It's Jonathan and Stephanie that are going to do that. Jonathan, go ahead.
Your worship, members of council, this is the first time that we've seen a report in this fashion from county planning, and I'm sure it's more to come. There is no recommendation to it, so we can either consider it as information, or if we wish to tie a recommendation, would be to have this report received in file. One thing I would like to note, and it is a very detailed report, what is not captured, although lightly suggested, is pre-consultation, which we've been doing extensively in the last 6 months. The other thing I'd like just to point out is that the Twinesters proposed draft plan is under consideration right now, and we're waiting for a wholesome submission where we will be re-entering draft plan. The draft approval that sits on the status for the report reflects a low density of 79 units. That's a previous draft plan, I'm assuming, but I just wanted to make sure that there's some clarification. So I'll open it up for council, for either Stephanie, myself, Mike, or John Lampman for any questions. I believe you're on mute, Brian.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Cornelison, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. For either Jonathan or Stephanie, in reviewing the report and the projected population growth, is that taken into account the proposed subdivision developments in its entirety, or just the ones that have currently been draft approved?
Through the mayor to the councillor, I would have to follow up, but I can also provide council with a copy of that population report that was done.
That was done by Watson Associates for the county, was it not?
I believe we did some work internally as well.
Okay, I would like to see that report if it's possible. I think it'd be great.
Through your worship, also it kind of intertwined with that, the municipalities undertaking our official plan update this year, where some of that information from the county, some of this information will reflect future endeavors as we move ahead as well.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? No other questions from council at this time on that report? So we need a motion to receive and file that report. Councillor Hemming, Councillor Moyer, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, Stephanie.
Have a good night.
You too. So at this time, we do have a delegation at 6:45. Can we do that delegation, or are we too soon?
No, we can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we're only a couple of minutes. And it's Rod Dupuy and Jackie Muller from Aqua, and it's presentation of the fourth quarter operational report. How are you, Rod?
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, municipal staff. We are here tonight to present to you 2020 fourth quarter operational reports and 2020 annual and summary water reports as well. I just wanted to first start off by saying that it's nice to see everybody tonight. Hopefully soon we can get back to where we can present in person and meet face to face and talk about water and wastewater. I'll start off with the 2020 North Middlesex distribution system. And if you flip to page number 2, when it pertains to compliance and exceedances summary and third-party inspections, I have nothing to add for fourth quarter. On page 3, occupational health and safety, fourth quarter, you'll see that when it pertains to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have additional PPE and supplies that were sourced. The frequency of the facility and vehicle cleaning and surface disinfection was increased. So that's door handles and laptops and desks and cabinets. Staff reorganization was implemented to meet social distancing requirements. And of course, facility access for contractors was strictly monitored. That has not changed as part of the fourth quarter, and there was no additional health and safety issues. But something I'm going to maybe add to that is the mental health that this pandemic has put on, not just through our daily work, our daily lives, personally and through our work life, but with the COVID pandemic, and our staff has done remarkably well. And Aqua takes the mental health of our staff very seriously. So we ensure that they have the resources and the services they need if they choose to need so, or to have that service provided. When it comes to our water and wastewater operators, they are directly responsible for us being able to turn our taps and flush our toilets. But I'm going to give a shout out to our compliance team and our administrative team as well, because they play an important role to keeping our services going for both water and wastewater. General maintenance and plant activities. If you go all the way to page 7, that's where it starts. And it continues on to page 8 when it comes to our fourth quarter. On page 8, you'll see that we have municipal work orders. When it comes to locates, 718 for the year. And I'm going to share a little interesting fact that I got from Ontario One Call. In 2019, the amount of locate requests that came in the month of April was 81,331. In 2020, the month of April, they saw 51,694 locate requests. And in 2021, the month of April saw 119,223 locate requests. A 47% increase in the number of locates across Ontario. Hello?
Go ahead, Ron. There, Rod, go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah. Can you not hear us?
I did not hear anything.
Okay. We are trying to respond to you, but we can hear you. So if you want to carry on.
Okay, perfect. So I left off with the locates in the month of April, and so the month of April for 2021, we saw that we had 119,221, a 47% increase in locates, a significant amount. And the added twist when it comes to our locates is what we're seeing when it comes to fiber being installed in town of Park Hill, and in our rural areas, is that our locate requests are coming in for a significant street. So our number of locates on a street. So for an example, say Park Hill Main Street from McLeod all the way to Hastings, both sides of the road, both sides of the street. So that includes water main, sewer main, and all the services. So it's taken our operators, couple hours longer than it would normally would if it was just one locate for one house, for one water service and one sewer lateral. So that's interesting information coming in, and I don't see that changing for the month, continuing on through the rest of the year. So water turn on and turn offs, they haven't really changed too much, 31 and 30, and our water main and service installations 62 for the year. So if we go to on alarms, page 10 and 11, you'll see that they have been identified for fourth quarter. And again, you'll see a lot for power outages and emergency locates being the majority of them. Under complaints and concerns, if we go to page 12, we got nothing to report. And when it comes to our operational highlights, I just kind of want to bring your attention maybe to page 13. It's in the third quarter, but I think it's worth mentioning is the work that we did from our water department with both municipal staff and the fire department for both Park Hill and Elsie Craig when it came to fire flow testing. It was great work with those two groups to see what their challenges are and what their needs are, and seeing if there's anything we can do to ensure that they have every last drop that they can have to fight fire with. And on that particular night, August 27th, we had a significant wind storm that took out a large number of hydro poles within the area of Mount Carmel Drive. The same night, there was a significant barn fire on Elm Tree. And I know we didn't have any power at the Mount Carmel Reservoir, so we had to set up portable generators. Again, we went to the fire department in Park Hill. They didn't have lights, so we set up a portable generator and put some lights for these guys to go in and fill their trucks. And I look forward again to working with them this summer to continue that work on fire flow numbers to see what we can do to make sure that they can do their jobs safely and effectively. So it was a great night. And again, I really enjoyed working with the fire department. And I just wanted to mention that to you as well. The DWQMS, so that's Drinking Water Quality Management System. We had some internal audits, management reviews, annual risk assessments late in the year. But other than that, is there any questions on the fourth quarter operational report for the distribution system?
Any questions? Deputy Mayor Ken-Ellison, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I'm not sure, Rod, if my questions are related to the fourth quarter specifically or not, but I was reading the report and I did have some questions come up. I noticed that there was a number of inspections where there were water leaks at the connection site that were determined to be on the property owner's side of the line. My question for you is, and then they're made aware of it, is there a follow-up inspection to see that it's been repaired, or is that just left up to them to determine if and when they would repair it?
Through your worship, the deputy mayor, there is a process that we go. We meet with that resident, we speak with that resident, we give them options of local contractors that they can use to repair that service on private side. And one of the key factors that we have is that they're requesting a water turnoff. We own that service. So we have to turn it off for them and we turn it back on. So it keeps us in check with what's happening during that process.
Okay. And the other question I have for you is similar to that. And I received an expression of concern that there was an identified leak on Marks Settlement Road, which was repaired, but apparently was still leaking. And I don't know if it was inspected again and it was determined to be on the owner's side, or if there's any follow-up done there at all.
Yes, there is a follow-up, Deputy Mayor, and one of the things that I can do is, and I have this happen before, and it will happen again, I can repair a section today, and it doesn't mean it's not going to leak at a different spot, right close to the same spot that I repaired. We're talking about water main that is very, very thin when it comes to PVC 160 series. And we're also talking about poly and also copper that is very thin, that we get multiple pinholes in this copper. Elsie Craig is very known for copper that has pinholes where I could do the same repair in the same trench multiple times. And we're getting to the point where we'll go back maybe twice, but the third time we're actually repairing or replacing the whole service right from the main to the curb stop, because we know we're going to go back. So that's our process, and we'll continue to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. So with LC Craig wastewater pollution control plant, on page 2, I'll start off with the 2020 flow data. Average daily flow with 543 cubic meters. Basically, we're at 44.9% of our rated capacity. So that's a good number. Peak flow was 2,097, and we're at 52% of our peak design. The chart below that, I like that flow because it shows each month of what we had coming into the plant. So when you see some higher numbers, you know it's a good indication of a rain event. And then, of course, when you look at the summer, you'll see these months where we have a very extremely low numbers. And I say pay attention to those type of numbers, because that usually reflects when it comes to total phosphorus and pH. On page 3, under compliance and summaries sections, I have nothing to report for the fourth quarter. Occupational health and safety on page 4, there's nothing new to add there. That's the same. Same thing with inspections as well. On page 5, under general maintenance and plant activities, that's where the heading is, but it actually starts on page 6 through to page 7. We have them listed for your review. Page 7, where we have the start of alarms and call-ins, goes to page 8 and page 9. So with the water system, you'll see that it's power outages and emergency locates. When it comes to the wastewater system, it's power outages and high wet well level alarms. Under complaints and concerns on page 9, nothing to report. And then we have our start of our performance assessment. And our chart 1 is the raw sewage monthly average daily flows in 2020, starting on page 10. Table 1 below that is the raw sewage sample results. Nothing out of the ordinary for the fourth quarter. Page 11, under table 2, the effluent sample results for 2020. When it comes to fourth quarter, November, I'll say October, November, you'll see 0.483 under total phosphorus. November was 0.310. And these are all relation to flows. So we're slightly above our objective when it pertains to total phosphorus. Chart 2, our average monthly effluent CBOD, so that's carbonaceous biochemical oxygen demand, well within our parameters. Page 12, same thing with total suspended solids, and chart 4, our total phosphorus. You'll see it start to creep up above the objectives and close to the limit, but we're pretty close, dependent on our flows coming into our plant. No non-compliances, so nothing that I needed to report to the MECP. That's Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. Page 13, our TAN, so that's total ammonia, nitrogen, again, well within the limits. Chart 6, effluent E. coli, geometric mean density. Again, we're well within our limits and our objectives. And lastly, our pH. So there is no minimum limit or maximum objective. They're both the same, 6.5 to 8.5. So we met those as well. Any questions pertaining to the LC Craig wastewater treatment plant?
Questions from council? Deputy Mayor Canellison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Rod, again, with the power outages, when it's a plant outage, is the operation or the organization then prepared to respond at a specific time, or do we respond only when the alarm goes off?
So when there is an alarm, when there is a power outage, there is always an alarm every single time. And an operator will respond to that facility every single time. Reason being is because we can have multiple processes that have failed because of that power outage. And we have to ensure that those processes are operational. So that's the way it's designed and that's the way it works.
Okay, so that holds true even when it's a planned outage, so that there's a time frame given when the power will be shut off and returned?
So if it's, yes, there's a little bit of a difference there. So if it's planned, if the power goes off, for example, let's say at 6 tonight,
Yes,
and it comes back on, say at 8 at night,
yes,
the operator will go back in after the power has returned.
okay, that
And
was my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, go ahead, Rod.
So with the Park Hill wastewater lagoon system, on page 2, you'll see our 2020 flow data. And we have broken that down as well to each month that's coming into the lagoon site. On page 3, we have our compliance summary and our occupational health and safety. Nothing to report for the fourth quarter. Page 4, you'll see inspections, nothing to add. Under general maintenance plant activities, starts on page 5 and continues on to page 6. Under alarms and call-ins, we have our fourth quarter. Again, it'll be due to scheduled power outages or high rain events. Nothing to report for complaints and concerns. And we have our performance assessment report. So we showed you our raw sewage monthly average daily flows in chart 1. On page 8, we have our raw sewage sample results. And at the bottom, the table 2 is the effluent sample results. Again, knowing that our effluent is only discharged spring and fall. Nothing out of the ordinary. Is there any questions pertaining to the Park Hill wastewater treatment plant?
Any questions? Deputy Mayor Nelson.
Thank you. I feel somewhat, I don't know, taking up a majority of the time, but I do have a question, Rod, on your report with the sledge depth. And you indicated that that report would be forthcoming. Would that report then be made available to council when you receive it?
Yes, we can make that report available for council, absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for Rod? No other questions?
When it pertains to the annual and summary reports, a lot of the information is has been presented through for the operational reports. I'm just going to open it up to council. Is there any questions when it comes to both the annual and summary reports for me tonight?
Any other questions for Rod for the annual report? No, doesn't look like it, Rod.
Well, I'm going to ask for a motion that council receive and accept the 2020 annual and summary reports by Aqua as required by the Ontario Regulation 170.03, Section 11 and 12 of the Safe Drinking Water Act, and further that both these reports be made available for review by the public.
We're looking for a mover for that. Councillor Keogh, Councillor Moyer, all in favor? All in favor, carried. Thanks, Rod.
When it comes to Deputy Mayor of comment asking about power outages, I just want to take this opportunity quickly as well. Elsie Craig Wastewater Treatment Plant in particular, last Thursday, we were doing routine maintenance on a UPS unit, so that's a utility power source at the Elsie Craig plant. And unfortunately, we had a PLC processor failure. PLC processor is a program logic controller. It's essentially a control board that allows this plant to operate automatically. So that's why we're able to work an 8-hour shift. That's why we're able to have weekends off. You don't have somebody that's manually operating this plant 24 hours a day. We lost that PLC processor. And we were very, very fortunate that the supplier of this PLC processor actually had something on the shelf in Ontario, in Canada, for us to have it shipped to us and get it into this plant. We actually had to think pretty quick, really think outside the box here to get this plant operating as the way it should, because I literally had operators, you know, as a level would come up, they would turn a switch to turn the pump on, watch the level go down, turn the pump off. We're talking basic operations here. What it came up to be was that there's the front building does 75% of the operations of this plant, and then the back building does 25%. So we went through multiple electrical drawings and came to the conclusion that we could take the PLC processor from the back, stick it in the front, and basically operate the back operations. So that's decanting, supernating, wasting, that type of thing, manually during the day, and not have to worry about it overnight and then in on weekends. So we just try to do everything we can manually during the week until we get that in. So if John hasn't mentioned something, and I'm sure he has, an indication is that our SCADA systems and our PLCs, I'm going to be recommending that we put some money towards that to get there, because this plant, we could have easily just been going right to their lakes and rivers and streams. That's how nerve-wracking it was to get this plant going. On a bright side with that, we've been working with a energy optimization with an engineering group, and received a technical memo 1 regarding the hydro costs at this facility. And it has been identified of what the major user is, and it's the HVAC system. So now we're waiting for technical memo 2 to come back to tell us what our return on investments are to correct that high usage of hydro that we've been experiencing here over the last couple of years. I'm also working with Aqua's group, partnering with another contractors to have a demo on another mechanical mixer to help with our blowers. That's another high energy cost that here is at the plant. So this is all funded, so it's not a cost to the municipality. So we're trying to work towards and getting that implemented. They're also talking about as Aqua and the municipality and the engineering group coming together to write a paper to present to WEO. So WEO is Water Association of Ontario, or Water Environmental Association of Ontario. So it's a pretty big organization that allows major players to come together and share knowledge and training and ideas and innovation and things like that. So that's pretty exciting when it comes to our energy optimization at this facility. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Is there any questions on that before I get carried away on something else?
No, thank you so much for that report there, Rod. It was very helpful and very informative. Thank you so much.
Any questions on that from anyone? No? No questions?
If I may, Your Worship, I just want to touch base on 3 big programs that we as Aqua has been working on here. District metering area, that's a great program that we're looking at trying to mitigate our water loss. So we've been working on that, and it ties in with residents, because I get a calls from residents, whether it be at times it's weekly or at minimum it's monthly, pertaining to water pressure, water quality, and what Deputy Mayor was talking about was leaks. So we're constantly evolving and looking into these, investigating and troubleshooting these issues. So this program is huge for us. We're doing leak surveys, we're pressure monitoring, we're doing testing, and that's going on as we speak. We have a meter pit installation program that we're doing weekly as well. And the biggest thing we got going on is this maintenance that's gone to the next level. We're doing water service. We always did this before, but this is where we're doing it weekly. We have a scheduled weekly where we're doing water service repairs, water valve box repairs, water main repairs, just go down the list. And that's paying off dividends as well. And I just wanted to share that with you tonight.
Thank you, Rod. You got anything else? I mean, give us some good news here. We're ready for some good news.
Good news is, I think for myself is that when it comes to the programs I've mentioned that we're looking is that we are finding leaks. So when we're going to do a repair, when it comes to, say, a valve box is shifted or it's bent, we've actually are finding leaking pipes at the bottom. So that's good news in the sense that we're being proactive and we're showing that this maintenance is actually paying off in dividends when it comes to our water loss. So I encourage you to keep that funding going to allow us to continue on, because those are huge wins, because they're not surfacing. So if we don't go and repair that valve box, we won't see it.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Rod. Thank you. Now, does Jackie, you have something to add?
No, Your Worship, I am here just supporting Rod. I don't have anything at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jackie. So, Rod, do you have anything else?
That's what I got for tonight. I won't take up too much of your time, but if anybody's interested, I love talking about wastewater. I love talking about water, so I'm always free.
I'm good with the water part. I'm not so sure I love talking about wastewater, but yeah.
I just, through the mayor, just like to thank Rod and his team. Obviously, they've been taking on a lot more work, doing a lot more programs. They're very proficient. We have some bugs and we're ironing those things out as we go through it, but definitely progressing and doing great.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Any other questions from council this time? Seeing none, thank you very much, Rod.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good evening. At this time, department reports. First one is changes to the property tax and assessment measures policies, and that's Jonathan Graham, I believe.
Through your worship, members of council, the recommendation before you is that the report entitled 2021 tax policy be received as information. This report is generally to shed some light on some changes into the tax ratio. Some of this was touched upon last council with MPAC. Two notable areas that I would like to highlight is that there has been a noted variance in the business education tax that the province has agreed to a reduction. Through commercial and industrial analysis of our 2021 assessment versus our 2022 assessment, we have seen a reduction of $122,256. However, this was calibrated through the budget and taxation portfolio at the beginning of the year. We had notice of this, so we were able to shift some things around. A couple other things, and I know again this was mentioned a little bit with some impact discussions lately, is that there's an optional small business subclass that will be coming through in full Ontario regulation in 2022, and the effect. This will allow the municipality to create a subclass. We are responsible to manage it. It hasn't been fully refined to date, so that's where the finalized for the Ontario regulation will shed some light into it. And there'll be some discussions for a county-wide adoption to this subclass, so that there's consistency amongst the groups, because we don't want to have a drive to the bottom where we're taking from one neighbor to the next to shift them over. So there'll be a lot of communication in the next couple of months in terms of that, and a further report to council will be coming to the forefront. The report is pretty extensive, but again, we will be following up with some of these regulations as they're released. Also attached is a notice from the Minister of Finance, which details some of these changes coming through and where we sit. With that being said, I'll open the floor to council for any questions.
Okay, questions from council. And I want to just say, Jonathan, you're right. It is a pretty long read. It's a long read.
There's a lot of moving parts coming through, it sounds like, and a lot of housekeeping as it would be that they've tried to correct.
That's what it seems mostly. Any other questions from council on that report? Pardon me. I almost said Deputy Mayor, Councillor Moyer.
Thanks, Mayor. Jonathan, is this something Provincial's downloading back on the municipality? It's going to end up affecting our budgets, or will it be in turn with some other monies coming from provincial government to help out?
Through your worship, what I'm aware of right now, obviously the business class or the business education tax is, lack of a better term, is a shift and or a download, but we had enough notice to being able to compensate that through the review. As you can see, it's not a small amount, but it's also not a significant amount. So we were able to move things around to do that. More to your point on the policy for the small business component, that one, if I'm reading between the lines and the nomenclature that's been given to us, it is a download to us to administer in terms of managing it. And that's where I think it's really important that there's a county-wide adoption to this understanding if we're going to entertain that. And that's certainly something that we will bring back to council before we go into fully implementing such a program, but it is a download to answer your question.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you're talking to other municipalities, I think it might be worthwhile to talk to the county and have I think we should talk to the province anyways about extra funding through the gas tax, or I mean, it's just one of many that have been downloaded to the municipalities lately. So it'd be nice to see some compensation for those programs.
I would agree with you on that.
Questions? Councillor Nickel?
Yeah, so at this point, what is the classification of a small business? Does it go by the size? Does it go by the amount of employees? Does it go by their revenue?
Through your worship, it can be one and it can be all of the above if that is a decision or direction of this council as we refine as the Ontario regulation is refined. Those options will be presented to you in future. Hopefully, and kind of to Councillor Moyer's point, there's a collective front through the county that we all take the same approach, where we can demonstrate the shortfalls together, and we might be able to get financing in other opportunities. The easiest one to gravitate towards is the income and the profit of that commercial entity. Because through the report, many things have changed in the last year. Square footage of an office space, the number of employees, that's subjective now with people working from home. So can we really rely on something like that as our pillar? It could be a factor, but I wouldn't go for those ones being the ones that we consider first.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Any other questions? Seeing none, we are looking for a motion for the report. Councillor Nickel, Councillor Hemming, in favor? Carried, thank you. So the next one is, on the public concerns regarding Mystery Falls. Jonathan.
Through your worship, members of council, the report before you and the recommendation is that council receive the public concerns Mystery Falls report as information, and that council directs staff to formally advocate, solicit Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority, or ABCA, in temporarily closing the Mystery Falls Trail until such time as local concerns are addressed. So I'm going to jump around a little bit in this report, but generally Mystery Falls addresses 186 Elm Tree Drive and 176 Elm Tree Drive. As discussed with a couple meetings or constant communication from the residents who are affected by the general concerns, vehicles visiting Mystery Falls typically include 2 to 3 people in the vehicle. Roughly for 50% of the trail users / groups include dogs and canines. And as per the COVID-19 pandemic, significant use or patrons increases have been observed over the last year. For more than 20 years, Mystery Falls has been recognized and is established as an ABCA trail within the boundaries of North Middlesex. Surrounding the area, Elm Tree Drive and Broken Front Road are classified as rural roadways as per the Ontario Highway Traffic Act. Due to the age and local use, both roadways are below municipal rural right-of-way standards as per our infrastructure design guidelines, meaning that if we were ever to go back and to do a capital projects related to these 2 roads, we would make them much wider. Elm Tree Drive and Broken Front Road are both no winter maintenance roads at a certain point. One at the intersection, Elm Tree Drive with Broken Front Road, and another one with Broken Front near a bulb for a turnaround. There's a small 8 to 10 car parking lot located at the entrance, which is 176 again. And recently, ABCA has provided waste bins. A special note, there is no public washrooms or amenities available on site. Over the course of several years, municipal staff and councils alike receive regular concerns and or complaints from local residents impacting the surrounding area. Generally, these can be surmised into trespassing, ATVs on the run, traffic infractions, dogs at large, bio waste, whether that be human waste, canine, or garbage as well, aggressive and hostile trail users, and verbal and physical alterations, or not altercations. A special note, on February 11th of this year, myself, Mayor Ropp, and Deputy Mayor Cornelison met with ABCA to express some local concerns that had been coming to the forefront, which was in some solutions, including local road improvements, enlarging the current parking lot, waste bin installations. Again, these were installed by ABCA. Local third-party advertisement of the trail and their removal. Again, ABCA has outreach to these third-party groups to have the tourism component related to identifying Mystery Falls removed from their websites, but they are not under care and control of these third-party groups, but they have outreach to try to get some of this information off. We also talked about bylaw enforcement. Although these local improvements on Elm Tree Drive, which is the main corridor going to Mystery Falls, may be considered an ultimate solution, the cost associated with this undertaking is significant and will require the appropriate budget consideration of the municipality if it was going to be borne by us locally. So meaning we'd have to go through the proper 2022 budget consideration. On March 26, again, myself, the mayor and deputy mayor met on site with 18 residents to discuss their concerns, and they mimicked much of what I've already mentioned, with one notable change is that hunting permits near the trails or within the surrounding lands are, and then I'm finding it a little difficult to understand the relationship between a hunting permit and ABCA, but there is some overlap in terms of the Mystery Falls trails. That was a concern from the local residents in terms of hunting nests were being installed or tree nests were being installed. Furthermore, you can see some analysis in terms of traffic volumes in the local area. The highest at this point is around 90. On that same day of March 31st, 2021, we saw a speed, we could capture speed of 118 kilometers an hour. That kind of blew my socks off, but it was recorded. For special consideration, we are continuously maintaining a traffic counter up there, and we're going to maintain this for quite some time. With that being said, there are two other notes that I would like to make. At the time of writing this report, I was engaged in conversations with ABCA, but after submitting the report, I was given some information from the Lambton Shores Trail Group that was discussing some of the community points that were brought to attention. And I think really the best way to characterize some of this information in between these two groups and the local residents is that we need to be able to do a better job in the area. So there is some identified signage that has been put up by third-party groups. There's been some vandalism on one side, there's been vandalism on the other side, which is clear with the pictures. Fires also are something that are a regular occurrence out there, trespassing being the number one. As of today, ABCA reached out to me and informed me that they will be preparing a report to be considered at the board level in the near future. I don't want to hold them to a date, but we have been informed that that will be coming forthwith and that they look forward to engaging with us to being able to provide an amicable solution for everybody. With that being said, I'll open the floor up for comment or questions.
Right, who'd like to start? Deputy Mayor Cornelison, you start.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Just to add to that, Jonathan, if I may, like yourself and Mayor Rob, I've had a number of complaints and concerns expressed by the residents of that area. Again, this past weekend, I actually drove up there myself on Sunday about 3:30, and there were probably about, I'm going to say 40 to 45 cars parked there. The small lot there could not accommodate them. They were parked along both sides of the road, and there's no way that any farm equipment could have gotten through to work their land. It just would not have been possible. I spoke with a local resident who was there that Sunday morning. He said that the OPP were there for several hours Sunday morning and had grave concerns about the conduct and what is happening there, and that they would be, the Sergeant McCarthy, I believe his name is, would be submitting a report to the local inspector. In addition to that, some time ago, shortly after our meeting with the residents there that Jonathan referred to, I did attend a Sauble Bayfield Board of Directors meeting, and I actually brought up some of our concerns and the community concerns to the Board of Directors. And I highlighted everything that Jonathan just spoke about. To my surprise, a number of the directors had no idea where Mr. Falls was even located. The following day, I had received a call from the general manager, Brian Horner, who expressed displeasure with my having brought that up at a board meeting. He felt that it was inappropriate for me to do so. I stand by my decision to do so. I felt that the board had a right to know the concerns of the community and that they needed to be informed. A few days later, I received an email from Kate Monk, who also expressed concerns about my bringing that up at the board meeting. However, I still stand by that. I understand that Kate will now be bringing a report to the board. I have suggested to the local residents here that they may wish to form a delegation, much like the beach owners along the shoreline do. That does seem to have some impact in the decision-making process at the board level. And I think it might be helpful if they did so. For myself, it does put me in a compromising situation, because as they highlighted at our last meeting, as a member of the board, I'm duty bound to stand in the best interest of the Conservation Authority. However, that would be a conflict since I'm also representing the municipality. So it's a bit of a twisted fate there a little bit. So that's where it currently is. And I'm looking forward to this report coming to the board, and we'll see what goes from there.
Other comments, questions from council? I do want to say, I think at least a temporary closing of that trail is warranted. There are some things to really figure out how that can work. At no time did the residents, the local residents, ask us to spend taxpayer money to fix the road and make it bigger or to make the parking lot bigger. That is not what they would want to see either. And so it was just, it does have to be dealt with. We do have to come to a solution. I do want to work with the Sauble Bayfield and the residents to make it happen. I think a report going to the authority would be a great step in the right direction to see what they can do. But other comments from Councillor McClinchy?
Okay, if they close that site, how are they going to control that? People are still probably going to go there. Like, what do we do from there then? Because
Jonathan?
even, you know.
Okay, Jonathan?
You're absolutely right. There's various degrees of scale of authority and ownership in this situation. The municipality doesn't have the authority to close the trail. Our authority begins and ends mainly with the road. To your point, and what this report is seeking is just a dialogue with ABCA, with the possibility that we should be considering closing the trail until such time as that we can frame or, invest or collectively come to a better solution that appeases a lot of people. You're absolutely right. We've even had those discussions about bylaw enforcement in terms of parking infractions, but unfortunately, although there could be, you could surmise that 20% of the people using the trail are regular users. There's 80% that are coming for one time, maybe year over year, but that's it. If they come out and see a parking ticket on their windshield when our bylaw enforcement's not there, they're not getting upset about the bylaw enforcer not being there. They're going to look for the people around to vent their frustration. So we don't want to escalate the situation, but we do need to address it. And that's what this is trying to form, is that let's get it in the formal process, whether that be at ours and with ABCA, and we start talking about what a solution would look like.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Other questions, Council? Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I guess my question, I'll just put it out to whoever can answer it. Certainly this is not the only maintained trail that Asaba Bayfield Conservation has or looks after, but I'm quite sure if we're having an issue there, that they must be having issues elsewhere. And how are they looking after that?
Through your worship, sorry, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Cornelius.
Well, actually, John, that was kind of a bit of a thorn in the side for some of the residents up in that area, because just prior to that, Kate Monk was on CTV National News, and she addressed the fact that there is concerns with dogs off leash and hikers at other locations. And she mentioned that there was increased bylaw enforcement through a private organization that they have engaged to deal with these infractions and with what's happening on the conservation lands. Unfortunately, they've only sent them out to the Mystery Falls on one occasion, which was Easter Sunday, I believe. And it's questionable whether or not the bylaw people actually went down to the end of the road or at the parking lot or not, because there's been no report submitted in that regard as to what they actually saw, where they were, who they spoke to. So it's very vague in terms of what happened. But the fact that she addressed that there is concerns and increased bylaw enforcement, it doesn't seem to be forthcoming at Mystery Falls location.
I guess what I'm just asking is if this type of behavior happened on Morrison Line, how long before it would be corrected?
Well, that was a question I brought up to the board and I did not receive an answer. I brought that question up and said, if this happened at Morrison Dam or at Rock Glen, what would the response be? I did not receive an answer.
Okay.
Other questions from council? And Asaba Bayfield did acknowledge, Kate did acknowledge that this particular trail is kind of a one of, like, and it's just the amount of people that are there now. It is not a nice atmosphere to be at. Is
No.
it? And you've seen it, Jonathan, you've seen it. First time I went there, there's some pretty aggressive behavior going on there, and it's just getting worse. And so that has to be curtailed. Jonathan.
And I'm only going to give my professional opinion. I can't speak on behalf of ABCA, but I strongly believe that it's the popularity, it's a falls in name and title in southwestern Ontario where you don't get a lot of them. It's a nice trail. It's a little bit of a, it's a challenging trail, but it's about the amenities that surround it to incorporate people getting there. I can only imagine somebody, and we do have people driving from Windsor and Toronto area coming down and using this trail. If you travel 2 hours to find out you can't park in a parking lot or there's no washroom, you're not off on the right step once you get out your car. So I think it's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of, we got to help maintain the community environment over in that area, foster something of this effect. A trail is a good thing to have in a situation where people use the outdoor amenities, but we also need to give it its due diligence. And again, that's all we're really trying to seek here, is an open dialogue to figuring out what the plan is for Mystery Falls, not just today, because we know it's an identified problem, but how do we get past this within 6 months, a year, and those type of, get ahead of this so that we can manage it appropriately.
Other questions from council? Councillor Keogh.
I guess maybe I'd just like to just put a thought out there that perhaps maybe they should charge a user fee, and that would certainly curtail some of the riffraff.
Well, there would have to be a lot of improvements made there to be able to do that, because to get around it, they'd just cut through somebody's field and bypass it right now. There'll be a lot of changes to have to happen. There's a lot of work to do there if they're going to continue, I think.
I guess ABCA has their work cut out for them then.
Yeah. Councillor Moyer.
Yeah, I think it's a,
Oh, I think you
obviously people like using it. I think it's an asset to the area. So I would hate to see it just shut down. I think, yeah, we need to work with the Asaba to try and come to solutions for it. I mean, it's bringing people to our area. It's getting people in our community, which is what we've always talked about, getting people to stop and spend money, spend time here. So, I think if we got an asset that people want to use, we should work and try and get that to some sort of solution that works for all parties.
You know, I think that's the goal here, correct? To work with ABCA and to find a solution. Deputy Mayor Nelson.
I agree with what Councillor Moore is saying. However, I think we need to be aware of the costs associated with that thought process. You know, it seems that the Conservation Authority is expecting the municipality to cover the costs of improving the road, which is our road, and that makes sense, but also the parking lot, and to enlarge the parking lot to accommodate more cars. And I question that expectation, given that, you know, does Lambton Shores pay for the parking lot at Rockland? Does South Huron pay for the parking lot at Morrison Dam? Those are questions I think we need to have answers to. If it's a Conservation Authority location and resource, it should be a Conservation Authority budgeted item. It should not fall upon North Middlesex taxpayers to support that. North Middlesex pays their levy to the Salvo Bayfield, and a good percentage of that levy goes to shoreline management. And so some of the levy should come back to a parking lot for North Middlesex, for the Mystery Falls location.
Yeah, and that's in part is getting them to work with us, right?
Absolutely. We need that, their cooperation. But first, you have to acknowledge that there is an issue.
Other comments, questions? Seeing none, we have a recommendation. What's council's wish?
Again, I would note that there is a report tabled to come forward to the ABCA in either this month or early next month, I would imagine.
Jonathan, is your recommendation to submit this report to Salvo Bayfield?
They, through your worship, they do have a copy of this report. They are, you know, corporate partners to the municipality, so I gave them the report before time. And I've already discussed with their administration there that I will be following up with them tomorrow with a little bit more of a formal letterhead dialogue. And again, we're just looking to try to kick this off and start recognizing that this needs to be addressed. So I think the ultimate solution of having the proposal of the trail being considered to be closed until such time that we can, you know, properly, I don't want to go as far as finance, but at least properly accommodate some of the issues, then I think that that's warranted in this situation. But again, to what Councillor McClinchy was saying, if they close the trail, is the trail actually closed? Because the general public knows about it and can get access to it. So we're kind of stuck in a chicken and egg scenario.
Well, just to that, just to expand on your thought process there, and as you indicated earlier, Kate Monk, I believe, is bringing a report to the board on this issue. Would it make sense that that there be someone, a spokesperson from the municipality other than myself, to participate in that meeting to speak on behalf of the municipality?
I'm more than willing to volunteer myself for that if ABCA will consider it.
Okay, I think that's a great idea.
And they might not consider it in the initial meeting that you have, Adrian, but
no, they may not. They may not.
A follow-up meeting, possibly, right? If
well,
they wouldn't
I was
consider it in the original.
And I would bring it up, you know, as a suggestion that there be some form of a delegation that the board can hear, you know, for additional information.
Yeah, because the win here is working with the Salvo Bayfield for a solution.
Absolutely.
Councillor Hemming. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think maybe we should wait till we hear the response from the ABCA, what they have to say about the report. And then, because closing it, you say you're going to close it, it's just a verbal closure. It's not going to stop the people. I think we all know that. But yeah, maybe we should wait and see what the response to this report is from the ABCA.
So would you, through your worship, would you be suggesting a deferral of the second motion then?
Yes.
You're making that a motion to defer this? So ABC has a chance to respond. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Nickel. Discussion on that? So that's to defer this to give ABCA a chance to meet on it. Correct? All in favor of that?
That way you.
Oh, Councillor Moyer, go ahead.
But just when is the next ABC meeting? Like how long is this going to prolong?
I just meant, I'll look it up. Just hang on one sec.
Through your worship, it's May 20th.
May 20th?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's not bad.
But will they be able to get it on that agenda?
Again, through your worship, I will speak to their administration tomorrow. They reached out to me today,
Okay.
trying to feel out what we could be discussing today. And certainly, I'm sure some of them are watching now. So it'll be a quick and easy conversation in the morning, I would imagine.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on the motion? No other questions? In favor of deferring this? Opposed? It is carried. We'll defer this. So, yeah, will you send out to council, Jonathan, just a quick note on how the conversation went or what's going to happen?
Certainly.
Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on, and it is the next one is the Secondary School Achievement Award Policy. And Mike.
Thank you, Mayor, and to members of council. You have the Secondary School Achievement Award Policy in front of you. This policy has gone through Policy Committee and has been circulated to the principal at North Middlesex District High. So this is in conjunction with basically with the community volunteer recognition policy. So we're trying to recognize outstanding volunteerism or service or achievements in the municipality. This one specifically is recognize outstanding efforts at North Middlesex District High School, both academically and achievements beyond academics, build a sense of pride for students within their community and their school, and bolster the ongoing efforts of the municipality and local school advisory committee to strengthen and recognize our schools. So this policy consists of basically two different programs. Traditionally we provided $50 for academic achievements for years 1 through 4, and now we're bolstering that to $250 per student for a total expenditure of $1,000. In addition, the policy also seeks to recognize outside of academic achievements those that have significantly contributed to the school or community, and this is through a insignia ring. We have had the rings designed and mocked up by Pogues Jewelers in Strathroy. And I have included a rendering of that. So the ring will be, there's some generic criteria. There's a minimum of 2 a year. I say a minimum because if a sporting team or a robotics club or something does work through something notable, such as, you know, winning the province or a national competition, we'd like to recognize those achievements as well. So the policy is in front of you, and if you I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from council on the policy?
A little lighter note than our last discussion, so
Yeah.
I get the easy one sometimes.
Yeah, actually, it's a nice report. I like the idea of seeing I'll make the comment to that. I think the principal used it as an unsung hero award. Like he thought of it as that way, the people who actually make the school and the community a better place with them being there and helping out with things. I think was his terminology, and I really like that terminology that he had. Any other questions for Mike on this? No, it's an easy one. We have a motion in front of us. Moved by Councillor Keogh, seconded by Councillor McClinchy. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Mike. That's a nice one to see happen. Passing of accounts.
Through your worship, members of council, the passing of the bills and account and the recommendation that council receive and approve the following bills and accounts for payment in the amount of $303,980.42. Are there any questions?
Questions on the accounts? Deputy Mayor Cornelison and then Councillor Hemming.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Jonathan, I don't know if you can answer the questions or not. But I have two questions. The first one's on the YMCA losses on page 2. Are those losses reimbursed to municipalities through the COVID relief?
I will have to get back to you on that one.
Okay. And my other question, I believe, might be for Jonathan Lappman. I think he may have more information on this. And that's for Brina for water loss services. Are you familiar with that, Jonathan?
Yeah, so my Buren is the name of a company that Stacy Nickel operates. So Stacy Nickel used to work for Flow Metrics. He's been helping us with water loss in Elsa Crag, Park Hill for probably 3 years on and off.
Okay.
He is helping our guys out in West Williams right now with that pressure monitoring and flow monitoring that Rod was talking about earlier. It's just a company name. That's what it is, though.
Okay, I hadn't seen it before, but thank you so much.
That's what it is.
Okay, Councillor Hemming and then Councillor Moyer.
Yeah, Jonathan, there was one, 3 payments made to Huron Tractor for repairs to the zero-turn mowers. I got a vendor number. I don't know if that helps you or not, but I think it's on page 1 or something.
So through your worship,
Please tell me.
And so one of them is for blades and plugs. And that came up to about $300.
Yeah, I'm just getting to the fact that I sure hope it's repairs to old ones and not something gone bad with the new ones that we just got.
Some of it is inspection and warranty work, but they did some general maintenance at the same time. I can certainly send them out if you would like, but generally there's some various ones. There's 5 altogether from Huron Tractor.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just concerned, hoping it was misuse of the newer stuff.
I will look into it.
Okay. Okay. Is that it, Andy?
Yep, that's it. Thanks.
Councillor Moyer?
Yeah, thanks. There's a, I think it's check number 9596, Public Sector Digest for $9,718.
That is related to our most up-to-date undertaking for our asset management plan, which will be utilizing our modernization grant that was awarded a year and a half ago. So the next, although the Ontario regulation has shifted in terms of the compliance of that, we have they've shifted the schedule to 6 months to a year. We were actually already engaged with Public Sector Digest for this undertaking before we knew they were pushing the Ontario regulation timelines out due to COVID. But this is related to this capital project or a capital study right now.
So that's a consultant.
That is a consultant. We do have a third-party vendor relationship with them for the asset management module, but that is done at a year end.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? We need a motion to pay our bills. Councillor McClinchy, Councillor Moyer, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Committee reports, Lake Huron Pipeline?
No.
No. The steering committee, that was delayed again. We got notice of a delay just before the meeting, actually, just shortly before. And that was mostly at the request of London at that time, I think, John. Hopefully, we can get together here on the north side of London. The warden is looking into that. Maybe we can get together and start to talk about that part of it. ABCA, anything else, Adrian, besides Mystery Falls? No? Okay. Blue Water Recycling?
I was I had a Zoom meeting with the local school advisory. It was on the same night, so it's there for your information.
Okay, thank you. EDAC, you got a meeting coming up?
25th, yep.
Local school advisory, anything there? Recreation committee, water, wastewater?
We have a meeting coming up
Oh, sorry, Andy.
on the rec committee. We have a meeting.
Okay. Water, wastewater. Policy review committee.
We have a meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay. Fire committee.
No, nothing at this time, Mayor.
Okay. And Aqua, with Jonathan, we just had our annual report, so. Okay, correspondence. The town of South Bruce Peninsula, council support for motion to review the lottery licensing to assist small organizations. Councillor Moyer.
Yeah, I'd like to support that. I think there's enough activity in our municipality this year that didn't happen, that was affected by this. So I'd like to see support of that.
We have a seconder for that? Councillor Hemming. In favor of that? Carried. Township of Archipelago. I didn't even know there was a Township of Archipelago. Township
Now
of
you do.
Archipelago Council support for motion road management action on invasive Phragmites. So just for you to know, the county is looking at that program right now, and they're doing it by actually walking, and they're round up by walking so that they don't get anything else. They aren't doing a massive spraying. We'll see how that works out.
Mayor Rob, if I may.
Yes.
Yasawa Bayfield also provides some services to control that particular weed as well, but there is a cost associated with it.
Okay, thank you. Township of Springwater support of letter regarding clean fuel standard. City of Cambridge support to request paid sick leave. Receive and file. Do we need a motion for our correspondence? No, we don't. We dealt with them. Other business. Seeing none?
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Actually, through your worship, I'll toss it over to Jonathan Lampman.
Okay.
Through you, worship, to council, but just giving you a heads up that we've been working with BSI Online. So BSI Online is a backflow prevention company and essentially a database that provides to us basically a database. And what we go around and do is we go and figure out where backflow prevention needs to take place. So we're going to be issuing letters to residents within the municipality, commercial type residents that should have backflow preventers that need to get these things checked on a yearly basis and start this backflow prevention program, for which we're gonna do the commercial centers within our towns, and then we're gonna go to a former township and do it. It's just a general heads up that we're starting the program. You might hear some things from people asking what it's about and so on, and that's what we're letting you know.
All right. So any questions for Jonathan on that? Councillor Nickel?
So are you talking about the backflows for homes as well?
No.
Okay, because I wouldn't even know if I had one or not. Like, how do you know?
No, through the mayor to Councillor Nickel. No, not for homes. It's more of a commercial level kind of thing. So restaurant, Craig Wood, some farms that have wells and potable water supply, stuff like that. And just ensures the safety of the public drinking water system, basically.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan. Any other business? Any other business? Hearing none, you had the deferred items in front of you. Next would be the communication, including county council. Go ahead, Adrian.
I don't think there's anything, Mayor Rob. I can't think of anything.
No, well, we had the last meeting was canceled. So we do have a meeting coming up on Tuesday.
Yes.
That agenda just came up. Oh, the one thing that would come up is the public date for the Blacks Bridge. The public, and that is going to be a Zoom meeting. And Jonathan, you have the date and the time for that.
Through your worship, it's only tentative right now, but it's scheduled for May 19th between 4 and 6 o'clock, or between 3 and 5. It's a little bit variable right now, but it seems to be around midway through May. And as soon as we get the information, we'll make it available for the general public, and we'll also forward it to council.
Okay, I just want to put a heads up in there for residents that that is coming up in mid-May here for them. Okay, Councillor Keogh.
Sorry, I just want a little clarification on that, Jonathan. And is that, if that in fact does go through, will that be a Zoom meeting? And if it is, can they just register to get on, or they just call the municipality?
Through your worship, so this is a county asset, and the EA does require a public consultation component, so they have to do something. It is going to be by Zoom. Registration or two things will happen. You either can watch the presentation or you can register to be part of the actual dialogue. So you could ask questions, you could submit questions formally written. Usually they have to accept it by written as well. But again, the date hasn't been quite refined yet, but there's two ways to doing it: viewing it and being engaged with it.
With that being on May 19th, which is not very, well, 2 weeks tonight, how would the residents of that area be notified? They just stay in touch?
Through your worship, we will be pushing out notifications through our social media and our websites. And then the county, I would imagine, would be doing the same as well. It does require, again, through the EA process, that you have to submit it in a format that's accessible, that people are aware of that. But sometimes the news circulation doesn't have the same oomph that it did once before. So I'm looking for that information from the county engineer as soon as it's available, and again, we'll make it available to council and the residents alike.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Seeing none. Reading of the bylaws.
Bylaw 46 is the zoning bylaw amendment, the application that was approved earlier this evening for 2557 McGuffin Hills Drive. And bylaw 47 is your confirming bylaw. We're looking for first and second reading.
For second, Councillor McClinchy. Councillor McClinchy, Councillor Keogh, all in favor? Carried.
And third and final on both.
Councillor Nickel. Councillor Moyer, all in favor? Carried. At this time, we do need to motion to go into closed, and that's for labor relations or employee negotiations, Service Ontario operations. We will just wait for us to go off of live stream.
If we can get a motion.
We need a motion from Councillor McClinchy and Councillor Hemming, all in favor.